What a day that they part.
Hello and welcome to my full review of Fire Force Season 3 Part 1. I'll be your host, Sunset. Disclaimer baby, everything I use in this video is for review purposes only, so please Crunchyroll don't come and spank my cheeks! Also, my reviews keep spoilers to a minimum and the last episode won't ever be discussed. Alright, now let's see what Company 8 is trying to put out. Whoa, I thought we were supposed to be putting out the flame, dog, not cranking it up. Let's start off with the animation. Woo! The animation was crispy yet stiff, just like me when I stare at Momo Ayase from Dandadan. Oh yeah. Anyways, the animation was done by David Production, best known for Bento. Now that's a throwback right there. And JoJo's Bizarre Adventures. The animation for Season 3 is very clean. Everything looks HD, 4K, high definition, baby. Woo! But for some reason, some of the character movements feel stiff. Look. I got you guys. For example, when Arthur is fighting Dragon, right? And Dragon claps Arthur's cheeks, his arm breaks and everything just looks stiff as hell, dude. I don't know why. Oh, and I forgot to mention, this part also gets me very stiff. Anyways, now I do appreciate the impact animations. It was basically candy for my eyes, baby. And I really like these comic book effects when the Infernals start screaming at the moon. I'm looking at you, Soul Eater Moon. Oh, and before I forget, I really dig the experimental art in this show. I'm talking about like when Hamuea, the crown girl, she goes insane, right? And as she's going insane and she sees all of humanity's negative thoughts, even my thoughts, you see these comic book panel strips going in the background. That's attention to detail. Also, when Hibana goes to visit her childhood area, St. Raffles, and she starts remembering how she was eating bugs and getting experimented on, the whole animation in that scene, very crispy, very good, very pastel-like. Also, I'm not gonna spoil too much because this was on the last episode, but the experimental art when Shinra goes back in time and sees everything before the first cataclysm is chef's kiss, dog. Mwah. Dude, and that's not to mention the awesome fight with Burns. All the impact action, man. Crazy stuff. Animation gets a 4.5 out of 5. The animation was good, but the movements, man, felt clunky. Just like your mom. Alright, let's get started with the story. Without spoiling too much, the story picks up after the events of Fire Force Season 2. Look, most of the story for Fire Force Season 3 is actually really horribly paced, man. So slow, dog. Now, let me explain before you guys clap my booty cheeks. The rescue for Captain Obi took way too long. That was episode 1 through 6. That's half of the season before they actually take a break. And I know this is one season split into 2 parts, but I find that really stupid and annoying. They are building up to Soul Eater. That's why these episodes are so stretched out, dog. Like Momo Ayase when I'm done with her. And that's assuming they are actually making Soul Eater after this, dog. Look, a quick example of this show taking forever is when they capture Obi. They keep on teasing and teasing that he was gonna get infected. He was gonna get annihilated by this bug. Tease after tease, and he doesn't get infected until episode 5. Continuing the story, we find our heroes a little lost. No one trusts Company 8, dog. Also, they find out Hibana's and Iris's past, right? And how it connects to doppelgangers. And Company 8 is on the hurry to stop the first cataclysm, right? And that's all we get because they took forever rescuing Toby. I'm like really annoyed that this is actually taking a break. Well, with all that in mind, the story gets a 3 out of 5. I'm sure the story is going to get better once the anime completes, but just the way it's broken up made me feel a little bummed out. So I might give it a different score once the anime finishes airing. Alright, let's get on to the music. The music for Fire Force is actually very solid. The OST brings a very military vibe, but it can also get creepy when it needs to get creepy. The opening called High Flame by Queen Bee gives me a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood vibe. I'm talking about the song Rain by Sid, which is very fitting due to the fact that Fire Force is actually following the same beats as Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Now the ending called Urusiren, I mean, it's alright. I found myself skipping it most of the time, but the imagery is actually really cool. So with all that in mind, music gets a 4 out of 5. Nothing too crazy, but I did enjoy some of the songs in this. Now let's get on to the final part of this review, dog. And I would like to call this part the Soul Eater effect. As of now, I'm giving Fire Force Season 3 Part 1 a 3 out of 5. I will eventually change the score once the rest of the anime comes out. Now let's get it, baby boys. I strongly believe this season suffers because it's actually busy trying to set up Soul Eater. Whether they actually make Soul Eater or not is a question still to be answered, right? But I can tell that they're pushing all the action into part 2 of this season. For example, I haven't read the manga, right? But I've gone to Barnes & Noble's, baby, and I've actually peeked into some of the manga panels, right? So I actually peeked into this part where Arthur is rebuilding Excalibur with Vulcan, and Vulcan actually gives him like a power-up ring. This isn't anywhere in the anime. It looks like it's going to get pushed back into part 2. And I just feel like they know you want Soul Eater, so they broke season 3 into 2 parts on purpose for the views, man. The money. They're doing this for the views, obviously. And look, I feel like this decision is actually hurting the show because it already took like a 5-year break, and it's taking a big break between part 1 and part 2. And I feel like Fire Force is already losing a lot of steam, baby. I got some final thoughts. This is more of like something fun, I guess. So I've noticed that the mangaka for Soul Eater and Fire Force really likes Full Metal Alchemist. And here, I'm gonna show you why. So the fight in Central Command is very similar to like when Burns and Shinra like meet up in basically Central Command with Joker. Also, the similarities between Obi and Mustang, right? So they're both fighting for truth. They're both getting captured. And they both recruit help from their old military buddies. This one's pretty cool. The fight with Shinra and Burns mimics the fight with Scar and Wrath. And basically the truth and the pillars are very similar. They're both this one-eyed black creature that it looks like black jelly, right? And that's just some of the fun things I found between Fire Force and Full Metal Alchemist. Anyways, with at least those fun facts, I'm gonna leave you guys now. Make sure to subscribe, comment, and like, and share, and like, and comment, and share. And subscribe, baby. I've been your host, Sunset, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.